call the CBPAC meeting on March 23rd, 2026 to order. First, please give your attention to the short video.
This meeting will be conducted as a Zoom webinar to allow for public participation and comments. The Contra Costa Transportation Authority does not condone hate speech in any form. We continually strive to make life better for all members of our community and create an atmosphere where everyone feels a sense of safety and belonging. We ask that anyone who wishes to speak does so with civility, respect, and kindness for others. Public speakers will have up to 3 minutes to speak. The chair will call upon public speakers at the appropriate time. Each public speaker is requested to state their name and organization, but providing such information is voluntary. Public speakers who wish to speak in person should submit a public speaker card to the clerk. Public speakers participating by Zoom who are wishing to speak should use the raise hand feature or dial *9 if participating via phone. Written public comments received in accordance with the teleconferencing special notice on the meeting agenda will be provided to the members. If authors of any written correspondence would like to speak during the meeting, they should raise their hand or submit a public speaker card. Thank you for participating in a meeting of the Contra Costa Transportation Authority.
All right, Deanna, can you please conduct a roll call, please?
Yes, Chair. Member Byrne? Here. Member Sonantina? Here. Member Evans?
Present.
Member Foster? Member Keeshan? Member Lannis? We do have, let's see, okay. Member Olson?
Present.
Member Riley?
Here.
Member LeBeau? Member Simmons? Member Wilson?
Here.
Vice Chair Weeks? And Chair Sarmiento.
Here.
Okay, we have a quorum with members Foster, Keeshan, LeBeau, and Weeks absent. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Next, we'll move to public comment. Is there anyone wishing to speak during public comment on an item that is not part of the agenda? If so, please submit a public speaker card or raise your virtual hand and staff or I will call upon you.
Recording in progress.
I do not have any public comment or remote comment.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, this concludes item 2, the public comment item. We'll now move to item 3, which is election of chair and vice chair for 2026.
I, Candace Evans, nominate myself as chair for the CBPAC.
All right, I have one nomination. Is there for
Candace Evans.
Member Evans? All right. Any other nominations or action? Or motion, I mean. Motion or any other comments, nominations?
Okay, so we have one for Member Evans. Is there anybody else who would like to? Okay. And how about for vice chair? We can take a roll call vote at the end too. Anyone?
Okay. So we have one nomination for chair. Do you have any nominations for vice chair? If there's no one else, I could be nominated for vice chair. But I'll leave it to one of the other members if they want to nominate me for vice chair.
Thank you. Okay, so we have Member Evans for chair and vice chair Sarmiento. I'll do a roll call vote on that one. Member Byrne? Aye. Member Byron?
I'm stepping in for Byron, but
Oh, sorry,
Aye.
Sorrentina. Yes, thank you. Member Evans?
Aye.
Member Keeshan? Okay. Member Alanis? Okay, it's not here. Olson?
Aye.
Member Riley?
Aye.
Member LeBeau is not here. Member Simmons? Member Wilson?
aye.
And Chair Sarmiento.
Yes.
Okay. We have member chair moving forward and member Evans, or Chair Evans, and then member Sarmiento for vice chair. And we can go ahead and swap those spots now too, if you like, and continue for the rest of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you. Congratulations.
Thank you, everyone, for your patience. Give us 1 second. Thank you, everyone. We will now proceed. Moving to our next agenda item for today, which is item 4, the consent calendar. So we're going to do a summary of actions from January 26th, 2026.
And then do we have
I
anybody?
think,
Oh.
yeah, any updates? No updates?
I'll make a motion to approve the consent calendar.
Thank you.
Second.
We do have a motion and a second. We'll do roll, Deanna?
Yes, ma'am. Member Byrne?
Aye.
Member Sonantina?
Aye.
Member Evans?
Aye.
Let's see, member Olson?
Aye.
Member Riley?
Aye.
Member Wilson?
Aye.
Chair Sarmiento?
Aye.
Oh, sorry, Sarmiento.
Remember, sir. Yeah, aye.
Did I get everybody? Okay. We have a motion that passes unanimously with those members that are present. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving to our next agenda item, which is irregular agenda items. Item 80, review the complete checklist for the compliance of Metropolitan Resolution number 4493. And the recommendations?
I have a small presentation for you all for this checklist review. My name is Stephanie Hugh, Director of Project at CCTA, and also the project manager for the Express Lane Completion Project on northbound 680. I just want to provide a quick update on the project and why we're here today for the checklist review. So the project's goal is to complete the last express lane gap on northbound 680. The southbound 680 side is actually completed in terms of the express lane network. So this is the last remaining gap on 680 in Contra Costa. The past few years, CCTA has been working through environmental clearance for this project. What you see on the map is a schematic of what the gaps are. So currently, the express lane going northbound ends in Navorna. That's kind of where the gray line ends on the bottom of the map. The project is aiming to complete the gap between Navorna all the way to Arthur Road as we approach the Benicia Martinez Bridge. The project is proposing to, I'm going to go to the next slide. We've selected an alternative where we would construct a new express lane from Navorna to just south of the 24 interchange on that first light blue line on the bottom of the map. There will be a smaller gap with the dashed pink segment that will not have an express lane. And then it picks up again just south of North Main Street to about 232. That's the second light blue piece. That would be a new express lane. And then the blue up top is converting the existing HOV to an express lane. CCTA received a federal grant a couple years ago end of 2024 to construct the first phase of the project. So essentially everything north of 24. The elements include, again, constructing new express lane, basically the light blue in the middle, from just south of North Main to 242, and then conversion north of 242. And then a set of braided ramps at Lawrence and Street Boulevard. So I have a map, a picture of what that looks like. So this is the existing condition. As you know, the Lawrence Way ramp kind of merges in with 680. But at the same time, those exiting on wanting to get off on Treat is also mixing into that weaving. They basically are weaving in and out. Those coming in, those trying to exit at Treat. Compounded to that is there's a truck scale just right next to our office here with lots of trucks also making that movement. So there's a lot of weaving conflicts in this area. In the PM peak period, there's a lot of basically a bottleneck forms and the traffic propagates back down to south of Walnut Creek during the heaviest congested time periods of the PM peak. Oh, there's animation, I forgot. So basically, again, this crisscrossing here is where there's lots of conflict in terms of weaving that currently exists today. The proposal here for the project is to build a set of braided ramps where we would elevate the Treat off-ramp movement on a bridge, and those entering, Lawrence will go underneath, but those who are exiting North Main will do so still today on the loop ramp. Whoops, there's a mouse. So they will still continue exit on North Main through this loop ramp. The Treat will go on the new bridge. Those who are exiting, and then those who are entering Lawrence Way will continue to be at gray as it is today, but going underneath the structure of the Treat Boulevard off-ramp. And the upper right-hand corner also shows it in a different viewpoint, how that would look like. So back to this, we completed environmental clearance end of last year. Again, were successful in receiving a $116 million grant to construct a first phase. We're continuing to work through the funding agreement with FHWA, and CCTA is advancing the project using progressive design build, and we're on our way to procuring a management team to help us with that effort. The reason why we're here today is the project also has Regional Measure 3 funds through MTC, and part of that allocation process requires project sponsor to go in front of the county's Bike Ped Advisory Committee. So that's why I'm here today. We are required to fill out a complete street checklist. In the attachment, there's some screenshots of the various parts of the form of what it requires. It's new that this checklist has two components. First part is the complete streets policy that you guys should be familiar with in prior checklist review. Starting this year, they introduced a new component regarding transit priority policy. So that's a new part of the form. For the complete street checklist policy, we're seeking an exception because it doesn't fit the project. It's 680 obviously is not, doesn't allow bike ped use, so that in itself it triggers this exception. For the transit priority policy or the TPP, that form or that section of the form is relevant to this project, as there is one route that operates on northbound 680 between Walnut Creek and Martinez, which is County Connections Route 98X. We have already, the form didn't make it to the packet, but I was gonna share it in a minute, what it looks like. But basically working through County Connection, they have already signed the form, basically confirming that the project does accommodate bus movements. The bus can operate or use the new express lane that will be constructed or not. So there's a route that accommodates their bus movement of 98X as it relates to that route. And then also, there's room in the form to provide suggestions on design measures. So the County Connection staff has suggested us looking at Q-jump lanes or HOV lanes at Lawrence on-ramp at Lawrence Way when it's constructed, and then also possibility of having transit signal priority. And then also requesting that we coordinate with them as the project moves forward with design, providing them time to review our plans, and also to coordinate with them with advance notice on any road closures or construction impacts to their operations. That was my last slide, but I did put in the back here just what the form looks like. Apologize for not having that in the packet. I received this late last week when the packet already went out. But basically, this is the form, just for your reference. The first page is to talk about what the project is, and then the operators are to fill out the subsequent 3 pages of what they would like to, basically confirming they have reviewed the project. Let's see, in a suggestion of mitigation measures or design measures to be added in the project if appropriate. And then the last part is to, as the project advances, what they would like to see. So County Connection basically asks for the opportunity to review the plans, coordinate on them in the future, and then notifying them of any closure that would impact their operations. And it's a pretty simple form. So with that, I take any questions. This is to, again, satisfy the Complete Streets checklist process to allocate regional Measure 3 funds. And it needs sort of your review and any feedback or comments that you may have, if you have any. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie. I appreciate the presentation and the fact that you spoke to County Connections regarding this. I work closely with them being on SMAC as the chair of the Senior Mobility Action Council, and they play a huge role for transportation for seniors and persons with disability. Do I have any committee members who have any questions?
Thank you, Commissioner Olson. So a question. Are there bike lanes on the arterial streets that are parallel to the segments of freeway that are getting express lanes? And if not, let's get a mitigation measure going to install bike lanes on arterial streets parallel to the freeway, one on each side, please.
At this time, our scope doesn't include at this time, our project doesn't include scope of adding bike lanes to the adjacent arterials or parallel. But I think with other efforts that are going on, maybe CCT can look into doing that or finding gaps per the bike ped plan perhaps in the future. The project itself, as it's environmentally clear, does not include those scope of work. Maybe that's something we can look into in the future as separate projects at this time, unfortunately.
Yes, thank you. We're spending millions of dollars on this freeway project.
Sorry, Bruce.
Yeah, we're spending millions of dollars on this freeway project, so it wouldn't cost much to put a few $100,000 worth of paint on the parallel arterials. Here's my thought. On the parallel arterials, we include one automobile lane, one sidewalk, one bike lane, and then whatever space is left over between the curb faces can be divided up any way that the entity that is in charge of that particular stretch of roadway wants to. This is a very inexpensive request.
I guess we can commit to working with the cities that are traversing through this corridor to see if that's something they'd be open to. But again, this is led by MTC, CCTA, and Caltrans, and we don't own the arterials, but that's something we can check with the city if that's something they would be willing and open to at least discuss.
Yes, please check with the cities, check with Caltrans. We've ignored bicycles long enough. Thank you.
Yeah, Stephanie, thanks for that presentation. And I'm sure CCTA is aware of the county's project on, bike ped project on Treat Boulevard. And just commenting to make sure that, that this project has like no impacts on the intersection of Treat.
Yeah.
Okay. And it sounds
Yeah,
like
we
it-
did, yeah, we coordinated with your consultant, the design consultant who's working on the project here at Treat, and we did confirm there's no conflict. We conform to the existing terminus of the ramp before the actual intersection of the street, so I don't think there is. We've checked with, but we can, as we advance through the design, we were only in preliminary design, as you know, through the environmental clearance, but for the future design efforts, we'll definitely make sure they're coordinating.
Okay.
But we did an environmental clearance just to see what impacts are to the local streets and future projects.
Okay, thanks.
Is there a timeline yet for when construction would start?
Yeah, currently, in my previous slide, we're going through, oops, I think there's a section, yeah, on the bottom there. So as part of the progressive design build effort, there needs to be a project construction management team that needs to be brought on board. So that procurement is underway. We're hoping to get that finalized in May. That team will be on board. And it'll take another year to get the design builder team on board for about a year, so that won't be till 2027. We think the earliest we could break ground in any like initial packages, probably middle 2028 at the earliest, but it's really just how fast a PDB team would move. And then there's a bunch of stuff that we need to work on, for example, right-of-way utility relocation and all of that. So I think the earliest would be mid to late 2028, but we won't really know exact timeline until the PDB team is on board.
Thank you.
And Stephanie, I just have a few questions. And you said the project construction management team, you do not have that secured yet. Did you go through the RFP process? And if so, have you now solidified a few that you're going to use? And the fourth question is, will they be coming forth in front of us, giving us a little presentation of what they feel as well?
Sure. Yeah, the RFP did go out. We had interviews actually 2 weeks ago now. We're finalizing contract negotiations, and we're not quite ready to share who is selected because that's not finalized, but the plan is go to the board our board in May for contract execution. And then in terms of future presentation, we'd be happy to do so when we're ready on just the project or the approach and whatnot, if that's something that would be of interest to this group.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay.
We'll agendize that coming May. Just keep up with that and let Deanna know. So we
Sure.
would like that.
Yeah,
Thank
we
you.
can work with Colin to schedule it whenever it's appropriate.
Thank you. Do we have any more comments from our committee members? Yes, Stephanie. Suzanne.
Yeah, can you talk about any improvements that may be related to Central Avenue? As I know there's Central Avenue is being considered as a potential option for the CCC connection to the Iron Horse Trail.
Yeah, so this is actually the 684 project that triggers sort of that plan and study. I think Colin's leading that effort. My understanding is in the planning phase or just alternative sort of exploration. I don't know if Colin wants to speak to it at this point, but the study kind of stemmed off of the 684 Phase 3 project that's been completed and the commitment to look at the options of connecting to those two trails. So that's, I don't know if Colin want to speak to that or not. But,
Sure, yeah. We've brought it to the CBPAC before, and it'll probably be coming back in one of the next maybe 3 meetings or something like that to advance. But yeah, I definitely wanted to make sure people were aware there's the Iron Horse Trail, which is parallel to Interstate 680, I-680. And yeah, this planning feasibility study is being reviewed for all kinds of different route alternative concepts and open to input on that process.
And due to this being a high volume, thank you, Suzanne, for bringing that up. Before they come before, can we please get a heads up on what meeting that will be, Colin, if that is okay? Which meeting you're bringing that back? Is that okay for us to get a heads up on that? As in our next meeting?
Yeah, I mean, the Brown Act requires that it be publicly noticed, so it'll definitely be advance notice.
Okay, thank you. I see any more member comments? Moving to public comment? Deanna?
We do not have any remote or public comment or written. Thank you.
Thank you. And no virtual hands. So we're now moving to the regular item 4B, which is the update from the 511 CCTA electric bicycle rebate program.
So we have Kirsten Riker from 511 CCTA to give an update on the e-bike rebate program, which has been in place since October of 2020.
Okay, good morning, everybody. Nice to see you. Kirsten Riker with 511 CCTA, a colleague of Corey Riley, who's on your board there. So yeah, I want to give you a little overview of one of our active transportation programs, which some of you are quite familiar with, so bear with me. But for those who may not know that much about it, today I'm going to talk about our e-bike rebate program. So backing up, 511 CCTA is a countywide program that promotes alternatives to driving alone, including transit, ride-sharing, and active transportation. So we have several active transportation programs, including the Winter Walk Challenge, which just wrapped up today, which had over 2,000 people participating. We have the Summer Bike Challenge, which runs June through August, Bike to Wherever Days coming up in May, and the e-bike rebate program. So, as Colin said, we launched this program just over 5 years ago in 2020, and it's been quite successful. No. So, how am I? Page down. There. Okay. Okay, so we have two rebates. Our standard rebate is $150 and available to any adult resident of Contra Costa County. We have a $300 rebate, which is available to any adult resident who has a household income based on 400% of the federal poverty level or lower. We allow one rebate per person and up to 2 rebates per household. We allow rebates for all Class 1, 2, and 3 e-bikes, as well as e-bike conversion kits. Rebates are not available for e-motos, bikes with motors over 750 watts, or those advertised with speed capability of more than 28 miles per hour. E-scooters and e-skateboards are also not eligible for rebates. We do recommend that people buy their e-bikes at local bike shops, but people are able to buy their bikes anywhere from any retailer as long as it's new and they can provide a full sales receipt. We provide lots of safety information and resources on the program website, and all participants receive additional information when approved for a rebate. We provide links to the DMV Safe Cycling page, California e-bike laws from the People for Bikes website, East Bay Regional Park's trail riding rules, Bike East Bay classes and theft prevention information. We have a link to safe riding videos from the League of American Bicyclists, the CHP e-bike training course, and a guide for parents about e-bikes and e-scooters for kids. Since 2020, we've issued about 2,500 rebates so far, a quarter of which have gone to low-income households. Back in 2020, we started the program where rebate availability was available at a limited number per jurisdiction based on our funding. But after that first year, we scrapped that format and we allowed rebates to become eligible countywide at no limit. This slide shows where our rebate participants live, and you can see that Walnut Creek, Concord, and San Ramon residents have received the most. We send 2-month and 12-month follow-up surveys to all the people who receive a rebate, and we have a very high response rate of about 78%, which shows people are pretty stoked about e-biking and their experience with our program. We promote this program on our website, social media, and our newsletter, and in person at the events where we participate. Bike shops and cities help us promote it as well, but word of mouth advertising by far has the biggest impact. We designed this program with the intention of creating a sort of team of unofficial e-bike ambassadors. We wanted people to be out there selling the mode for us, telling everyone they know about how much fun e-biking is, bragging about their cash rebates, and getting others to try the mode as well. And we know that personal testimony and free test rides between friends, neighbors, coworkers is the most influential factor. And sure enough, 49% of our participants say they have definitely influenced someone else to buy an e-bike, and another 27% say they think they probably have. So as you probably know yourselves, when you ask somebody about their e-bike, generally that's all it takes to get them going about how fun it is, how many places they've taken it, how many miles they've ridden, and blah, blah, blah. So people out in the street have even told me how to get a rebate, not knowing that I actually run the program, which is pretty cool. This photo up here is a good example. This is a e-biking club that started in a Brentwood retirement community, and every single one of them has applied and got a rebate, and the club just grows and grows as people keep inviting more and more of their friends and neighbors to join. So it's pretty cool. We gather various demographic data of our participants. Here, for example, you can see that most are middle-aged and quite a few older adults are participating. We have other data that tells us that more men than women have applied for our program. The majority have household incomes over $200,000, and nearly 70% are college educated. So we have a lot of demographic data. It's in the 5-year report. If you're interested in learning more, you can access that. The e-bikes people are buying in our program range in price, but the average costs around $1,700. A third of our applicants, however, have spent less than $1,000 on their bikes. And this is my favorite piece of data. We ask people how often they rode a bike before they got an e-bike. And 53% of them said they only biked once a month or less often before owning their e-bike. So I would consider those people previously to be non-bikers. And you can see those are the people in the blue at the very top chart. And then a year after getting their rebate and using their e-bikes, 53% of those previously non-bikers are now riding their bike at least once a week, and over half of them are riding several days a week or daily. So as it says right there, wow, because this is true mode shift, which is the whole point of what we're doing. So overall, how often are people riding? We ask 1 year after receiving their rebate. 78% of participants are still biking at least once a week, with 62% biking several times a week. And it's no surprise, e-bikes offer a lot of the benefits that you get from driving: speed, personal transport, direct access to your destinations, with fewer physical limitations than using a non-motorized bike. So these benefits make e-biking a realistic, non-drive option for those who can't or won't use transit or a non-motorized bike. So looking at mode shift in Contra Costa County, as you all know, driving is of course the default mode, and 93% of our participants do own a car. Our survey data, however, shows that people are frequently replacing car trips with e-bike trips. 1 year after receiving a rebate, 52% of participants report using their e-bikes to replace a car trip once or more per week, with an average round-trip distance of about 6.5 miles. We also ask about transit, and in contrast to car replacement, about 80% of rebate participants say they never use their e-bike instead of BART or bus. So we ask one question, we say, where did you go on your most recent bike ride, e-bike ride? And it's no surprise that nearly half of all trips are purely recreational or for exercise. The data on this slide shows a snapshot of where people went on their most recent ride. So some of you would look at this and say, geez, why is CCTA paying people to start a new hobby? But if you look at it another way, you'll realize that while 45% said that their last ride had no purpose other than exercise or recreation, the other 55% did use their e-bike as a means to transportation to reach various everyday destinations, including shopping, errands, restaurants, appointments, visiting friends, or as a way to get to work, volunteer jobs, classes, or BART. So in other words, most people are using their e-bikes for transportation at least half the time. And the same percentage of people who use their e-bike to get to a destination said that without their e-bike, they would have gotten there in their car. Now, if we want people to use their e-bikes, we need to address the barriers. So while we can't change weather or distance, we do need safer roadway infrastructure, as you all know, and more secure bike parking. Obviously, these types of improvements would benefit riders of non-motorized bikes as well. So bike parking is a big issue. People are very worried about getting their expensive e-bikes stolen. After 1 year, we asked people if they have ever used a standard traditional bike rack like this for an extended period of time, and 55% of them said no. Only 32% said that they are somewhat or very likely to use a standard bike rack, which is a bummer, to say the least. 69% said they'd feel somewhat or very comfortable using an e-locker. E-lockers, however, are very expensive and take a lot of space. We also ask about the high security bike stands that you find over at BART, and 77% of people said they would be likely or very likely to use this type of rack. These racks are also much more expensive than standard racks. But the data tells us if we want people to bike more often, we need to invest in better bike parking infrastructure. So we've received over 900 comments on our surveys, and on the positive side, we hear people's joy of returning to biking after years and years away from it. People are glad to be able to bike again despite various personal, health, or physical limitations. They love being able to go up hills and travel further. They're enjoying a new pastime with spouses. They're enjoying fun and social nature of e-biking. And lots of people said the rebate motivated them due to improved affordability. On the negative side, we received a lot of comments about the need for more protected bike lanes, safer streets, and more bike paths. And a lot of people are asking for that secure bike parking that we just described, especially at retail locations, downtowns, and particularly grocery stores. So we have a lot more information in our full 5-year report, which will be linked at the very bottom of our e-bike rebate webpage. So if you'd like to take a look at that, you're welcome to look through and let me know if you have any questions. So that's it for my presentation. If anybody has any questions about the program, I'd be happy to answer.
That was amazing. Thank you. Very, very informative.
Thank you.
And items that I did not know. Love biking. Do we have any members for the comments? Yes.
I have one question in regards to the education and income data. Is there any outreach specifically to like non-English people who are perhaps less likely to have reliable transportation via car that allows them, because they're probably the people who need it the most. Just wondering if that's,
We do have Spanish materials, and we provide Spanish social media blurbs that cities have put out for us. The application is available in Spanish as well. It's the only language, second language that our program offers. But we have done outreach to various CBOs, bike shops, cities over the years.
I'm just curious, in El Cerrito, there is like a huge Tibetan population, and I know there are a lot of families who walk to school as well, and, you know, I don't know how you'd get it in Tibetan, but.
I don't know either, but if you have any ideas, or if you have organizations that you think would appreciate getting this information, I'd be happy to share it out.
Awesome.
So I take all tips.
My second question, is this going to continue, or was it just a 5-year thing? Is it going to like roll over
Yeah,
and
no,
happen
it's
again?
continuing on.
Okay.
Yeah,
This was just, a review.
Mhm.
Awesome. Thank you.
you're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. This was so heartwarming to see. I guess my question is, do you do any, it sounds like you've been going to agencies, CBOs, bike shops. Do you go to like DVC or Contra Costa College?
Yeah, actually, DVC, the whole Contra Costa College District has done a great job of promoting not only the e-bike rebate program, but our Tri-Transit to College program, our Big Win, all of the 511 CCTA programs. And we've had quite a few responses, not only from the e-bike rebates, but the Tri-Transit as well. So, yeah.
Thank you.
In fact, we're working with DVC, the whole community college district right now on a district-wide commute survey. So, yeah, it's exciting.
Do we have any public comments, Deanna?
We do not have any public written or remote comments. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, that was amazing. Thank you so much. I know this is far-fetched, and maybe I'm kind of new at the bike rebate, but do you think that you will bring forward a regular bike rebate for people who can't afford the e-bikes?
We don't have any plans to do that right now. We've had some discussions about potentially looking at ways we could help families who are maybe trying to get kids to school on bikes.
Because I know e-bikes are a little expensive, and like the alternate member stated, there are not too many can afford the $1,700, even $500. Normally bikes in the communities that are lower privileged range between like $50 to $150, and possibly do a $50 rebate, so to encourage the kids to get on bikes, encourage the elderly, because they do have elderly bikes for groceries. I see them all the time carrying groceries. We are in 2026, so I do try to say, hey, do you need a ride? I'm not a scary person, but if you're going down the street, I don't mind. For our seniors and disability, but it does break my heart because they can't afford the bike, and they also don't get a rebate for it. So we're kind of, in that sense, we feel like we're praising the ones who do have the money to buy an e-bike versus who don't have the money. So we're giving them $300 back after they just spent $1,700. So that would be something that I would be highly interested in understanding, like, helping others who don't have it at all.
Yeah, our whole team feels similar. We've discussed it internally. E-bikes are super expensive. If you can afford one, you're probably already, a lot of people are already doing well, as you heard. So I don't know. If this committee has great ideas on how we can reach people, we're talking about potentially maybe being able to increase our dollar amount. We had a couple of years where we had a grant from the California Energy Commission. It was a limited $100,000 to give $500 rebates only to low-income individuals in certain priority communities. And we went through that funding in the 2 years fairly quickly. So if we could get back somehow to that level, that would be helpful.
Yeah, that would be a good conversation to have. I think we had yes.
Thank you. I was just even sharing your thoughts on that. There's certainly an equity issue with the e-bike rebate program, even looking at the demographics. We're seeing it's people who make over $200,000 who can afford these e-bikes. And there's just so much hype over this e-bike. Let's say even if we did incentivize lower income people, the e-bike, most of the time they don't even have a safe place to put a bike, and as soon as it's stolen, we'll hear stories from next door. My son saved for this e-bike, cost him $1,500, now it's gone. So I would just kind of really suggest that, we build as much hype for like the manual bikes, and then put out information on the nonprofits that do provide free bikes to the community, or low-cost bikes like the Bike Kitchen in Concord, or that nonprofit up in Oakland. They'll give you a helmet and locks along with a free bike. So I think we should have that kind of model here. So I just don't think it costs anything to steer people in that direction if they can go to the e-bike rebate program.
I agree, and CCTA has put together a database of, we're trying to gather as much information about the Bike Kitchen and organizations like that who do have those resources, and we're making that public so that people can, find out where to go.
Yeah, it's probably in every newsletter. You can say, hey, if you can afford this, these are the resources. And if another grant comes about, it's also to fund not just the bikes, also the helmet and the lock. As much as I love seeing children bike, and I'm looking at them, helmets, where's helmets? Yeah, so, that's another, like a side conversation that we should have, along with trying to encourage people to ride bikes. Especially children, tell parents, your child must have a helmet.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I don't want to sidetrack it, but we
Yeah,
do have a schools safety program.
Mm-hmm.
We can save that topic for another day, but
Yes.
where we do provide free helmets for all of the schools.
Oh, that's wonderful.
Yeah.
Have one more question, just off of your comment. I know this is for new bicycles with receipts, but my family bought our e-bikes used. Is there like any, I know that's like a whole different thing, but is there like any way to help people just like with $100 off of a used e-bike, from like Craigslist or something like that, and just make it that little bit more accessible?
Oh, well, I love used things in my personal life. I almost don't have anything new, so I feel you. But because there has been a lot of theft with e-bikes, when we developed the program, we just thought it's got to be new, because we don't want to be incentivizing potentially stolen
Oh, I guess
bikes.
that's
So
true. I mean, we had one stolen also.
yeah, so that's the reason we don't do it. It is also the reason why we do provide rebates for conversion kits. So if you have a great bike and you don't want to buy a whole new bike that you don't need, and you want to have your conversion kit, as long as it's new and it's installed professionally, you can get a rebate for that too. So,
And I have a slight question to piggyback off of you and other member. Are there used e-bike locations where you can still buy, instead of Craigslist, like you can buy used e-bikes from an actual store? And again, I'm new to e-bikes. I'm an old school. I'm an 80s baby, so I am regular bike. But do they have stores where they sell used e-bikes, which is considered still, you still have a receipt, you still can get the rebate? Is that a
I
thing?
think there are a
Okay.
few places like that, and I believe we have given
Okay.
rebates for those when it's from a, verified retailer like that.
Okay, so it
but-
has to be a verified retailer, whether it's used or new.
Yeah,
Okay.
I mean, we've had people apply with it and they show their Facebook conversation on their phone as their receipt, and I'm like,
Yeah,
I can't, we can't do that,
understood.
unfortunately.
And my last question would be, regarding the e-bikes, for the flyers, the new rebates that are up and coming, would we get those? Would you be able to give those to Deanna and distribute out so she can distribute us to the email so we can give those out in our communities?
We're not doing a big flyer load right now, but we
Okay.
have graphics that we can certainly provide. We've given flyers to bike shops in the past. We've provided, social media graphics and things like that. But yeah, if you have a location that you think could benefit from some, we can
Absolutely.
provide
The
those.
senior centers in Lafayette, Orinda, Moraga, there are quite a few. There are a lot of seniors who do walk to Safeway, and it's getting hot. So,
Yeah.
I mean, that's it's just a no-brainer to urge them along. They get their e-bike or their used e-bike, new or used, and have their little fan right here and go and grocery shop. So that is a thing.
Okay, that's a good idea. Yeah, senior center, sure.
Yeah, thank you. If we can get that information in an email to the members, that would be great.
Okay.
We have another question.
It's me again. One of the last slides that you mentioned about one of the issues with, the e-bikes, which is also an issue with the regular bike, is bike parking. I wonder if there's any way to examine the current legislation, land use part of it, and make a recommendation maybe to, the planning or whomever is, right now, the way the bike parking works in the land use space, because I'm also planning commissioner, they'll say, okay, if you're building, this business or whatever, or housing, I think it's just like car parking, they have a ratio, like 2 spots per 100. Car parking, it's plentiful. In some places, there's so much they never fill up a parking spot. There's some that's not enough. And also the way the bike parking works is they just tell the developer, okay, you must have, 2, 3, 4 spots, but they don't tell them where to put it. And then they'll put, I've been to shopping centers that they'll put the bike parking way on the other side, out of sight, out of mind. I just wonder again that we should legislate where the bike parking should be, which is close to the entrance, not at the other end of the store doors where, there's opportunities hanging out, just waiting to steal the bike.
Yeah.
Because it only, even with the, and a lot of folks, they just use that chain lock. Just get bolt cutters and it's gone. So I hope that, I don't know who you're recommending, on the planning or the land use space, is to say, hey, let's re-examine the current bike parking legislation as to the placement and how many, bike parking there should be.
Yeah, I could get, you're singing to the choir. I agree with you. Yeah, the closer, the well-lit, convenient, central location, those are all, that's how it's supposed to be done.
Yeah, or even give up one parking spot, not taking away from the handicap, and you can fit 10 bike, 10 little bike parking there, because that's what they've done in Oakland, in some places, like on 3rd Street, one of the breweries, they took one street parking and just put all bikes,
Yeah.
Bike parking spots.
And to help you clarify that, actually, being a legislative recorder for the city of Oakland, what happens is that starts with the city. That's not so much there, but what the city would do is bring that forth as a discussion item. And once it's a discussion item for the public, like a public hearing, if it's that important for the legislation, they would bring that forward, and then the public would speak on how important it is to have more sections of the city in their areas to dedicate that for biking, and then they would hop on with their rebate for that. So they wouldn't bring a legislation for it. You would start with your city first and bring that forward on there. Just a little bit more guidance on how that would transpire down the road.
No, it's more like to propose it. and say, this is the issue, this is what people's talking about, and here.
Yeah, and that would start with your city council or your mayor for the proposition. And so it would start there, and then it would follow the chain of command down there.
We do have a lot of data that would help you make your argument. We have a lot of quotes with people's home cities that's available to help strengthen your argument when proposing things like that with your cities.
And that would be available through
Through the
public
e-bike.
information request.
You can link at the bottom of the webpage. I believe right now it still has the 4-year report. I was going to gather any suggestions for additional data that I got today before linking the 5-year report. But it's at the bottom of the webpage, and it has a link in there to a Google Sheet that has all the direct comments.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a great resource. Thank you.
Yeah.
Great idea, though. That definitely, and that's to anyone on the member board to reach out to your division in your neighborhood to get that started if you're wanting more bike parking. Do we have any more member comments? Okay, we'll move to public comment. Any hands raised, Deanna?
We do not have any remote written or public comment. Thank you.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
We will now move to agenda item 4C, and thank you so much for that presentation for e-bikes. And agenda item 4C is the safe trips to BART and action for safer roadways. And we do have a presentation.
Thank you for your patience. We have Kamala Harris with BART speaking.
I'm not the vice
I'm
president.
sorry.
Kamala Parks.
Kamala Parks will be presenting.
I can't believe how often that happens to me.
I couldn't believe I said that. Thank you.
It's okay. Wake you up. It's now lunchtime, and here comes Kamala Harris to present something to you about BART's safe trips.
Oh, boy.
All right. And Sungyeon Hong is on the phone, on Zoom, and she will present a part of this presentation. So thank you for having me, especially being the last item. It's nice to see everyone here. And thank you again for having us. And we just wanted to talk to you a little bit about this safety action plan that we put together. So I guess I advance the slides, right? Okay. All right. So, and I apologize if you've seen this before. We've been doing this since we released the plan in December, but you're going to hear it again. So just wanted to say that one statistic that I hope you can take away from this is that in the BART station study areas that we looked at, that we found that you're more likely, 2 times more likely per mile to have life-altering roadway crashes in our station areas than you are outside of it in the counties that we serve. And it's, by life-altering, we mean that these crashes result in people dying or being seriously injured. So even though, despite the media reports that BART is a scary and unsafe place, it's actually safer than driving by car or being in a car, about 18 times safer by one measure. Our customers are having a hard time getting to the BART station just as safely. So we want to share with you how we know this, why this is the case, and what can be done about it. So BART, we do care very deeply about rider safety. We have a legacy of doing many projects related to BART rider access. So some notable ones that you may be familiar with: safe routes to BART, not confusing at all with safe trips to BART. But that was a grant program that BART ran to improve walking and biking conditions, giving grants to local agencies to improve walking and biking around BART stations. And since 2021, we've awarded $16 million to 13 projects, and 5 have been completed. In fact, I just came from a field visit to the Pittsburgh Center Ped and Bike Connectivity Project. So it's very exciting to see that going in on the ground. We also did a BART walk and bicycle network gap study, which we worked in collaboration with local agencies at 17 station areas to identify capital improvements both on and off BART property. And just to make sure that if we're doing projects, we're aligned. We've also done the Berkeley-El Cerrito Corridor Access Plan, which was funded with state and federal grants, and analyzed how riders who currently drive and park at El Cerrito Plaza, North Berkeley, and Ashby stations could access BART along the corridor once we do develop the station put in transit-oriented development at the station parking lots. So it's not unusual for BART to have done something like this Safe Trips to BART, an action plan for safer roadways. It continues this legacy. It does seem a little odd, though, that BART gets a grant from Safe Streets and Roads for All. We ourselves have very few roadways under our control and even fewer life-altering crashes on our property. But this funding did provide a unique opportunity to quantify and analyze traffic crashes on city, county, and state-run roadways through the lens of station access. This effort was guided by BART station access goals to ensure riders can get to and from BART safely by collaborating with our agency partners on roadway improvements. These improvements would benefit BART riders as well as anyone else using the roadways identified in the plan. Most of you are familiar with the Safe System approach, which is a holistic way to dramatically reduce or eliminate life-altering crashes through safer vehicles, speeds, roads, and users, in addition to improving post-crash care. This plan is focused on improving traffic safety using 3 of the 5 Safe System approach elements, which is safe roads, safe speeds, and safe road users. Safe Trips to BART sought to answer the following questions. Where are the fatal and serious injury roadway crashes concentrated and why? What are our partner agencies doing to improve roadway safety on public streets, and what other measures could they consider? And finally, could improving BART service levels lead to better roadway safety? We started work on this in 2023 to answer these questions, as indicated by the scope and timeline below. We will provide more details about the engagement later in the presentation. So to answer that first question, where are fatal and serious injury roadway crashes concentrated and why, we needed to define each station study area to establish where riders travel to get to and from BART. You may know that every non-airport station is categorized, actually you probably wouldn't know, but this is how we do it. We categorize every non-airport station as one of 5 access types, which is largely determined by the share of riders who drive to access BART. Every access type, from urban to auto-dependent, has an associated average distance that BART riders travel from 0.66 to 1.96 miles. These distances were applied to the public street network, excluding freeways, around each station to define its study area. So the map on the right shows 4 different station study areas, and you can see that El Cerrito del Norte has a larger study area because the others, because a higher share of the riders come from further away. We analyzed 5 years of reported life-altering crashes, ones that resulted in at least one person getting killed or seriously injured. Looking at the overlap between these KSI crashes in the 5 counties that BART serves and our station study areas, we found that the station study areas have 14% of public roadway miles, but 24% of the severe crashes. So this is where that statistic I started out with comes from, that the BART station study areas have twice as many KSI crashes per mile than roads outside of them. So BART riders are exposed to this risk no matter how they get to our stations, walking, biking, driving, or being driven. The public streets in BART station study areas are therefore unique in terms of its importance to safety in the region. They represent opportunities to have the biggest impact on reducing the number of KSI crashes and improving roadway safety for all, whether they use BART or not. But what explains these findings? Is BART somehow at fault? Well, no. BART was built actually on purpose to be near wider regional roads that are designed to carry peak hour traffic volumes at high speeds. These are precisely the roadway characteristics that result in more severe crashes. On the previous slide, if you looked at the numbers closely, you would have found that there was 1,900 KSI crashes on 2,800 miles of public streets in BART station study areas. This is overwhelming for both the number of crashes and the miles of public streets. However, we analyzed the data set to develop BART's high injury network. This is a powerful tool for showing where safety projects can have the biggest impact. BART's high injury network used a lot of data and a bit of art to identify that over 1,400 of the 1,900 station study area KSI crashes, which represents 76%, happened on just 18% of the public roads. So if our partner agencies could prioritize roadway safety projects on their portion of BART's 500-mile high-injury network, it would make the biggest impact on reducing or eliminating traffic deaths and serious injuries. The maps on the right illustrate how the vast majority of KSI crashes in the station study area were captured using BART's high-injury network. One thing really important to note is that BART's high-injury network does not override or invalidate high-injury networks developed by other agencies. We have different methods, timelines, and geographic scales to identify high-injury networks. But BART's high-injury network enables Caltrans and our partner cities and counties to use their limited resources for the biggest impact, as almost all have adopted policies that prioritize transit access, especially by walking and biking. While BART's high injury network identifies where to focus roadway safety efforts, the toolbox in Safe Trips to BART identifies roadway safety measures by their level of effectiveness as articulated in national and state guidance. So to answer the first part of the second question, what are our partner agencies doing to improve roadway safety on public streets? We discovered during one-on-one meetings that many of them already have roadway safety plans in place as required by MTC, as well as other relevant plans, and they were seeking funding to implement identified projects. 5 of the 38 agencies we interviewed have Vision Zero programs, and we captured their efforts in Appendix D of our plan. For the second part of this question, and what other measures could they consider, we organized Chapter 4 of this plan, the Toolbox of Roadway Safety Measures, in keeping with the Safe System approach. To this end, FHWA, Federal Highway Administration's 4-tier hierarchy of roadway design were used to inform the organization and evaluation of these engineering interventions. The images on the right show examples of a measure for each tier. Partner agencies can use the toolbox as a resource for countermeasures on BART's high injury network, which could be complemented by safety, education, and enforcement efforts. And I will now pass it to Xingyan.
Thank you, Kamala. Do you all hear me okay? Okay, great. Next slide, please. In addition to the plan itself, focus station area action plans were developed to demonstrate how to use the plan and its toolkit to identify short-term projects. We selected these 7 stations based on crash data, geographic coverage, and local agency staff capacity. Ultimately, the focus station area action plans are intended to support responsible agencies in pursuing funding and implementing the proposed improvements. These 2 slides show example pages from the Concord and Richmond focus station area action plans. These plans include projects that agencies are already planning to implement, as well as newly proposed roadway safety measures. They also identify the implementing agencies, provide planning level cost estimates, and summarize anticipated safety benefits based on public input and guidance from partner agencies. Next. Given that BART does not control the public roadways, where most fatal and severe injury crashes take place, developing safe trips to BART required extensive coordination with local and regional agency partners and input from BART riders. We started the project with interviewing 38 agency partners who own or operate public streets around BART stations to learn about their efforts and discuss how to collaborate on roadway safety improvements. We formed and consulted with the project steering committee that consists of 5 countywide transportation authorities, including CCTA, the MTC, and Caltrans. We engaged our stakeholders through project updates and plan reviews throughout the process. In particular, to develop the focus station area action plans, we worked closely with agency staff, including staff from CCTA, City of Richmond, and City of Concord, to conduct in-station events and walk audits. For broader community engagement, we used various ways to reach out to BART riders through the project website, online surveys, in-station pop-ups, a virtual open house, and BART's Bicycle Advisory Task Force meetings. In addition to analyzing safety data within our station study areas, We also looked at roadways across the 5-county region that serve the same origins and destinations as BART. We wanted to answer the third question. Could improving BART service levels lead to better roadway safety? The answer is not on its own. When cars are removed from the street without other changes, it often results in wider roads serving fewer vehicles. What does that mean? That condition tends to encourage speeding, especially during non-peak hours. And speeding is the most common cause of fatal and serious injury crashes. One of the scenarios we tested was, what if BART observes a portion of peak hour car trips and jurisdictions reallocate roadway space to more vulnerable roadway users? This could be through a road diet. Potential candidates were roadways with more than 4 through lanes and fewer than 20,000 vehicles per day. According to our analysis, increased BART ridership when accompanied by a road diet can lead to a substantial reduction in KSI crashes. In fact, about 300 miles of roadway segments today could be right-sized, which could result in 127 fewer fatal and serious injury crashes. With that, this is the end of our presentation. Thanks for listening.
So we can have questions or?
We will now take member questions. I see we have none. Do we have any public, excuse me, yes.
But I'm just curious, Kamala, first, thanks for your presentation. I do have, you picked specific stations based on, safety data. Will you be expanding to additional stations in the near future, or is it just these for now?
It's just, thanks for the question, Robert. It's just these for now. We got a grant from the federal DOT to do this study, and we were only able to do 7 stations. And they're releasing one more round of funding, but this spring. But we already have the action plan, and we're not planning to go after that funding, but we're hoping that other jurisdictions who may want to have access to either that federal funding pot or another funding pot can use our plan to bolster or implement a project.
Okay, thank you.
I see no other members have a question or comment. Moving to our public speakers. Any hand raised for Deanna?
We do not have any public, remote, or written comments. Thank you.
Okay. I would like to say thank you so much for that presentation. Once again, that was very informative, and we look forward to other updates.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kamala.
Thank you.
All right, we are now moving to our next agenda item, which is 4D, as in David, which is the MTC One Bay Area Grant Cycle 4 program and related policies and funding programs.
If you can give us one moment, please. Thank you.
Sorry for the delay. Good afternoon. Let's turn my camera. Let's share. Thank you. Matt Kelly, Director of Planning for Contra Costa Transportation Authority. Great to be here. I'm happy to be here right now because we're talking about funding and actually allocating dollars to projects. And this is when our job gets fun and exciting, but also very complicated, which is why I'm here today to just kind of daylight what we are about to do and kind of let you know this group's involvement in it. So I'm going to start talking about OBAG 4 and then get into some related policies and some additional funding programs. But OBAG 4 is the fourth cycle of the One Bay Area grants. It is a funding program administered by MTC. The purpose of OBAG is to collaboratively implement the RTP, or the Regional Transportation Plan, known as Plan Bay Area, and its priorities for transportation, housing, and the environment. It allows kind of a coordinated investment of local and regional funds to improve connectivity, equity, and sustainability around the Bay, but especially here in Contra Costa. That's our focus. This cycle of OBAG incorporates the new transit-oriented communities policy, as well as the transit priority policy, which you heard a little about during Stephanie's presentation earlier. As she mentioned, that was a new component that's been incorporated into the Complete Streets checklist. So for Contra Costa, there is, let's see, well, first I'll say there's a county and a regional share in this. MTC is responsible for the regional share. CCTA is responsible for the Contra Costa County share. So they take money off the top for planning. Contra Costa gets $4.9 million for planning. It's not just for the planning department, it's for all of our activities related to OBAG, related to Plan Bay Area, related to all of our kind of regional coordination. And then the county award target is $43.4 million. So that is the targeted amount based on a formula that MTC has. That is our target. So that's the amount of money we're supposed to receive. But then we could potentially receive 20% in addition to that, so around $48 million. We will submit enough projects to fund the $48 million. That way, if there are other counties who don't get fully allocated, that money could potentially come back to us. I'll just go to the last bullet there. I just want to note there's a $5 million set aside from the regional pot that goes to the North Bay counties, and that's because they do not have the growth geographies that MTC bases this planning process around, and that is the transit-oriented communities and the priority development areas. So since the North Bay counties don't have those, they get kind of an extra infusion of funding. So MTC requires that the counties do a call for projects to identify projects to be funded, and then those projects nominations are due to MTC this October. So the transit-oriented communities policy and the incentive program that's part of it did cause a lot of discussion at the commission, at MTC, and a lot of it was around the scoring for the incentive program, and I'll just give you a little background on what that is. So the transit-oriented communities is focused on transit stations in the Bay Area, and in Contra Costa, it is our BART stations, plus the Martinez Amtrak station and the Richmond Ferry station. So that's our growth geography for the TOC policy. Out of those locations actually get to apply for the incentive program. And they need to meet a minimum amount of programs to qualify, and then there is, as it hints at, incentives. There is funding available for jurisdictions who meet the criteria. So in terms of the criteria, there was a lot of pushback and back and forth. Where the commission landed was that they would decrease the amount of points for cities that have established minimum and maximum office intensities. It's supposed to say do, not die, due to market conditions. So as you probably know, commercial is not the hottest market these days, so MTC decided not to kind of penalize jurisdictions for making, things, maybe more difficult for developers to come in and build commercial. Also, vehicle parking maximums, the amount of points available for that would be decreased, and that's also because jurisdictions are having a hard time with those policies because of the market challenges. However, there are increased points available for shared and unbundled parking policies, so still they're given credit for actually passing proactive parking policies, just not the parking maximums. And it allows jurisdictions wider variety of funding sources to fulfill, excuse me, housing policies. And I'll talk about some of those housing policies in just a second. Excuse me. So one change that was made, it was that TOC, that for that incentive program, the submission deadline to qualify was extended by 18 months to next July. It was originally supposed to be this year. So, oh, thank you. Someone read my voice. And as part of the original framework, credit was going to be given for cities who were in progress passing these various policies. And instead of giving partial credit, the commission decided just to not give any partial credit and to extend the deadline 18 months to allow for that work in progress to actually be completed. There are density standards or density credits for the, credits for the density standards under SB 749. I'll just say Contra Costa County does not qualify for or is not part of SB 79, so that's not something we have to deal with. Housing protection policies. So there were a lot of policies related to housing protection, anti-displacement, those types of policies that jurisdictions could choose from that basically, as part of the program framework, they needed to adopt 2 housing protection policies. Where the debate was whether they had to come up with one locally adopted policy and one kind of countywide policy, or if they had to adopt 2 local policies. And the way it fell out is that they would be given credit for 1 local policy and 1 county action, so a combination thereof. So, small cities weren't having to adopt 2 housing protection policies, which may be onerous for some cities. And I just noting there are 11 policies that the cities can choose from in terms of the 2 that actually are adopted. There's a higher threshold now for the incentive program. So the points were raised to 85 for the minimum eligibility to qualify for those incentives. MTC thinks that 10 to 15 cities may hit that 85 point threshold. And for those that do, there is a performance-based structure for funding, and basically it's project-specific funding. So cities who reach that 85 point threshold depending on their size and the number of TOCs. So smaller cities with one TOC would qualify for $1 to $2 million of project funding. Projects with 2 TOCs and higher population, I believe over 100,000, would qualify for $2 to $4 million each. So that's the county, that is Richmond, Concord, and Antioch, who have that higher threshold there. So we're hoping that all of our TOC cities apply and qualify, but we know that the threshold is very high. At the board's MTC board's workshop a couple months ago that occurred right next door here at the hotel, there was a lot of debate on who is actually going to qualify, and City of Walnut Creek staff was in the room saying, hey, if right now Walnut Creek doesn't think they qualify. If Walnut Creek doesn't qualify, who out there is going to qualify? So that, and I think the commission took that to heart and did change some of the scoring, but we still don't know who exactly is going to meet that 85-point threshold. We probably won't know till July of next year, but we're hopeful that cities like Walnut Creek, like Concord, like El Cerrito, that have been, very proactive in housing, building housing, especially around their TOCs, that they may qualify, but we will find out. So the real good news for Contra Costa is besides that $43 million of OBAG funding, which in past cycles has gone to more kind of county level projects or projects of county-wide impact. TLC and PBTF, our programs 12 and 13 of Measure J, are really intended to fund local projects and primarily active transportation projects. So Measure J Program 12, it's 5% of the measure, is our Transportation for Livable Communities. Those are funds that are to be used on projects that encourage the use of alternatives to the single occupant vehicle. And you can see the types of projects. Basically, like I said, active transportation projects are projects that kind of make it safer for folks to get around. And then Measure J, and I'll just say TLC was intended to make communities like Contra Costa Center that we're in right now more attractive to developers to come in and build them out, because when CCTLC started, there wasn't much here. We started funding kind of infrastructure, access projects, and you've got a beautiful bike and pedestrian overcrossing over Treat Boulevard over there. All of the TLC, PBTF went into that. All those improvements make it a much more desirable place for developers to come in and build the housing, to build the office, to build services that really make these places livable and that add to mode shift, both to bikes, peds, but especially transit in these locations. So that's been the ultimate goal of CCTLC, and we do think it's been really successful around the county. Program 13 of Measure J, 1.5% of the measure goes to pedestrian, bicycle, and trail facilities, PBTF. Those are really focused on ped and bike infrastructure, and a lot of focus has gone into our regional trails and funding projects there. And there is a carve out of a 0.5% there for the Park District to fund their projects. So in the last cycle, so that's one of the big news items, is that we haven't allocated TLC PBTF since 2016. It's been 10 years. Part of the reason for that is that we were looking to do this kind of shortly after 2020. This is when we were starting to think about it. All of a sudden, the pandemic hit. We did not know how that was going to affect our future tax revenues. So we had to put TLC PPTF kind of on the back burner till we had a better assessment of what our tax revenues would look like. We've now been able to get go through that exercise, and we have identified, we think, at least $40 million for this cycle 3. So we think there's a big opportunity to fund a lot of local projects around the county. And we're currently working on the program criteria for what that call for projects would look like. But we're planning on doing what we call a coordinated call for projects, not commingling the money, but coordinating the call itself so that project sponsors aren't having to fill out multiple applications. Basically, they submit an application for their project, and it comes here, and we kind of figure out which fund would, which funding pot would best fund that project. So there's also some other pots of funding that either come through CCTA or are kind of external to us, but are in the same time frame. So MTC has its CARE program that they're doing kind of alongside OBAG. CARE stands for Community Access. Oh my gosh, I've already forgotten from last week. I presented this twice. Community Action Recovery and Energizer Program. Colin, did I get it right?
Community Action Resource and Empowerment.
Oh my gosh, I got the R and the E wrong. How embarrassing. Oh my gosh. Community Action Resource and Empowering. That is a much better acronym than what I came up with. So CARE program it's funded by REAP, and it is intended to fund community-based transportation plan implementation. So we have these community-based transportation plans around the county which focus on our equity priority communities, communities that are, have been, historically underinvested, or, and have, populations that make them more vulnerable, less access to vehicles, lower household income, things like that. And so those projects that come out of the CPTPs, while they may meet an important goal or fill an important need in those communities, they may not always be prioritized very high by the cities in which they're in, just because they may not affect the same number of people as other projects that get prioritized in CIPs. So this is a way we can fund those important kind of smaller projects. And as I mentioned, that is kind of running concurrently with OBAG 4. But we'll have kind of projects will have to come out of CBTPs to be funded. The Air District has its additional bikeway funding. There's another new category of funding that comes out of TFCA, Transportation for Clean Air. There's about $3.5 million available for bicycle infrastructure in the county. The submittals are due around the same time frame, but we'll be, kind of treating that, as part of the call for projects, but only certain projects will be considered for that. And we may consider funding a project through that may have also could have been funded through TLC, and swap the funds out. The thing I didn't mention about TLC and PBTF is that because it's not OBAG funds, it's not federalized, so the monies are much more flexible and easier for cities to use. So we'd prefer to pass that money on to cities to reduce the amount of red tape, and whereas CCTA could take on kind of the more onerous federal funds. At the same time, the Active Transportation Program, both the statewide awards and the regional awards are going on. Those are due in June with the call for projects opening, I believe, this week or next. So that is something we wanted folks to be aware of. So when they're thinking about which grants they're applying for, they can be strategic because there are a lot out there. And so our proposed schedule, well, first this month we met with MTC for concurrence on our general approach and the call for projects. We're now kind of daylighting this, so we went to TCC, our board, planning committee this month. And starting next month, we will be working through the technical coordinating committee to develop a call for projects and the scoring criteria and the general guidelines for the call for projects. That will go on most likely at their April and May meetings. We'll be going to the RTPCs in that time frame as well to get their input. Just so you know, well, once the call for projects goes out and we have an idea of what all the projects look like, we will be kind of assigning scoring to certain groups. TCC is kind of the main group responsible for scoring, but for PBTF, this group kind of has to bless the scoring and bless the final list of projects that CCTA decides to fund. And then the RTPCs will have that same role with the TLC projects, whereas all the OBAG will stay in TCC. So something you guys, what we will probably want to consider, and you can consider it today, is if there is any interest in participation in a scoring subcommittee. We haven't gotten to the TCC yet to have this discussion, but what we are most likely going to propose is a scoring subcommittee jointly composed of CBPAC and TCC members. So if there is any interest, kind of keep that in mind, and probably at your next meeting, we'll be asking for those volunteers. We'll get the projects back in July, and probably over the July-August timeframe is when most of that scoring will occur. And also want to flag that, you know, normally in August there isn't a lot of activity here, but this August there will be. Probably have a TCC meeting as well. This group won't meet in August, but the scoring subcommittee may need to meet. And then everything has to be to MTC by the end of October, so we would expect that our board will be approving everything, at least on the OBAG side, in October. If we need more time for TLC, PBTF, because TLC does go through the RTPCs, we can extend that approval, that final approval, out past October. But OBAG needs to go in October. So that is my presentation. Really, it was just to daylight everything that's going to be going on over the next few months. But certainly happy to take any input or questions you guys have today.
We do have some members for a question.
Thank you, Matt. That is a lot. There's a lot going on all at the same time. I have a few questions. Just as far as the role of the RTPCs, is just TLC going to them, or is kind of all of this, including OBAG and everything else, going to them, or?
So, I mean, we'll be taking the general call for projects and guidelines through the RTPCs, but the purview of the RTPCs is really is going to be the TLC funds this time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Would they be able to review and comment on criteria for the other ones, or?
Sure. Yeah, we'll take input.
Okay.
Yeah, but the TCC has been kind of deemed the OBAG, the group that's overseeing OBAG.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. And then as far as OBAG goes, how does the non-infrastructure funding get into this, figure into that round? And just for the people in the room, that's kind of the street smarts stuff, the safe routes to school, the walk and bike leaders that Contra Costa Health does, and I'm pretty sure that's all bundled together with this whole process. So how does that fit in?
Great question. You know, we're going to really get into that in April with the TCC. Last time around in 2022, OBAG 3, we did, the authority did apply for several kind of countywide, called non-infrastructure programmatic type projects. That included our safe routes to schools. It also included our countywide smart signals program. And, you know, those were, those were very popular just in general because they hit, you know, all jurisdictions. Everybody received a share. Our board liked the approach that way, you know, and it kept those, basically CCTA had to administer all those federalized dollars, so it was a little easier on the red tape side of things. But yeah, we would expect that we will be doing that again, both to kind of fill out the Smart Signals program or phase 2 of the Smart Signals program, because there were some gaps in that program, the places that didn't get funding, or just places that still need funding. And then the Safe Routes to School, there's always a need there. We're considering other TDM type activities to be part of that. So yeah, we believe that will be our approach this year as we go to the TCC.
In previous cycles of OBAG, the RTPCs, or at least WCTAC, reviewed kind of the West County program and presented that to the board and had the WCTAC board bless it, I guess, before then it moved up to CCTA. And I just wanted to see if there's, you know, still a role for the WCTAC board there, working with CCHS as they develop their, you know, plan and all that. If they're going to apply, I'm assuming they'll reapply for the funds.
Right. So, you know, we haven't gotten to that level of specificity yet. I don't know that we will require the RTPCs to weigh in on that, but we certainly wouldn't object as long as the timing, you know, worked.
Okay. And then I just had a couple other smaller questions. When you were talking about the TOCs, is that our new term now? Is that a TOD? Is it TOC now?
TODs are TOCs, yes.
Okay, all right. I like the word community better than development. Yeah, I was wondering why not El Cerrito with like 2 TOCs under 100K population? Like, why weren't they?
Oh, so they're eligible to apply for the incentive program.
Okay.
So we just don't know if they meet the 85 points that they need to qualify for the actual funding. I mean, that's kind of, it's the elephant in the room. It was the elephant in the room at the MTC meeting, at their board workshop, because no one really knows who qualifies.
Gotcha. Okay. And then as far as like, why isn't Contra Costa County covered by SB 79? If you have a short answer to that. Like,
no, it's a good question. I believe in the legislation, it was any county with 15 transit stations, and I'd have to look up how they define that. I think at the time, we had 14 under the definition. We were very close, and there was some push politically from somewhere. It was one of our state legislators pushed to have us not included. It wasn't, CCTA was not involved in that. It was a surprise to us. You know, so I don't know if it hurts us not being part of SB 79. You know, certainly for those cities that are applying for the TOC incentive program, they would have gotten some points right off the bat because SB 79 counties get the high score for housing density under the scoring because they're just presumed to have planned for that level of dense housing under the legislation. So yeah, our cities are going to have to work to get those that scoring if they qualify. But great question.
Thank you. Moving to our other members.
All right, thank you. Just a clarification question, Matt, at the end, you said for OBAG that it's going to stay in TCC while CBPAC focuses on the PBTF program. But then you mentioned something about getting members from both committees to review applications. So I kind of just want some clarification. I mean, is CBPAC just reviewing PBTF, or if we get, what's this other, like, you know, you're going to gather committee members from each group. What applications are they going to review? Score, yeah.
Yeah, I think we still are trying to, you know, figure out what that's going to look like. But in the past, we have had a joint scoring committee. So we're kind of drawing from what we did in the past and figuring out if that makes sense today. But
So is that like a scoring for the OBAG projects?
that was scoring for all projects.
All projects. Oh, okay, okay. Okay, thanks for clarifying.
I have one question about, you said the Air District TFCA has like restrictions on what it funds, but it's for the whole county. 3.5 million seems kind of low. Do you have specifics on like what they, or does that not exist yet? Like what they'll fund?
So, yeah, they're calling it their additional bikeways fund. So it's very focused on bike infrastructure. It could be as far as we understand, and we haven't gone through the criteria yet to make sure, you know, we'll do that as part of our program development. But the way we understand it is that it's supposed to go to projects that basically provide bicycle infrastructure and have a positive impact on air quality. That's kind of the basics of it, but there is more to the criteria.
Well, if it's allowed, can I just make a shout out for like quick builds, because they're so much cheaper and the money would go a lot farther that way? I don't know. Just
Yeah,
my name down for that.
I think for that funding, we want to be really thoughtful about it and apply it to a project, and probably the full amount to a single project that will have an immediate impact, whether it's quick build or just a project that's ready to hit the ground.
Cool.
That's kind of what we're thinking.
Cool, just
yeah.
curious.
No,
Thank you.
great suggestion.
We have any more member questions? No? Okay. They asked all the questions that I had. So that concludes mine as well. We'll go to public comment.
We do not have any written, remote, or public comment. Thank you.
All right. Well, Matt, that concludes your presentation. And I'm assuming due to us having a scoring subcommittee, we will meet in August. I'm assuming that we will.
No, just at your June meeting.
A June meeting. Okay.
June meeting, yeah.
Got it. Thank you. Thank you for the correction. All right, moving to our next.
Just have a clarification question, because you said June, because we meet May, July.
Wait, sorry, I'm sorry. May, your next.
Yes.
Yeah, so we have you have a May and a July meeting. And so we would probably be tackling this subject at both of those meetings.
In both of those, okay.
But then there could be a potential subcommittee, scoring subcommittee meeting in August.
Okay. Thank you for the clarification. And we'll moving to our other business and information sharing. Was there any committee members or staff that would like to share? None? Okay. And Deanna, do we have any committee members that are sharing online?
No, we know committee members online that would like to share.
Okay, the last agenda is the upcoming subjects for discussion. Do we have any committee members or staff, anything they'd like to add for our next discussion item? Yes.
I was going to say, since we're the bike pedestrian committee here, so when we post the meetings, is there a possibility of adding, and for anyone who wants to attend, the closest public transit stop, like bus stops or the BART? Because, you know, a lot of these public meetings, they don't even direct people, except say, oh, there's parking, but they don't say where the bus routes are, or if there's the nearest bus stops if they want to attend in person.
This is directed towards Deanna. She's
I think that's-
suggesting.
I think that's a great addition to add. I'll defer towards Colin and our clerk to add that to our agenda.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And from my understanding, Deanna, we are able to as well email you any subjects for our next agenda item for our next meeting.
I'm not quite sure how that works exactly, but I think it would go through Colin.
Okay, Colin, this question is directed to you then. Since we don't have, but if something was to come up, we are able to email you agendized items that we would like to bring forward at our next meeting.
Yes, with the obvious caveat that, you know, a lot of items have been months in the making and are already on the tentative agenda for May. So, you know, working with chair and vice chair to coordinate as to the timing of different items.
Okay.
Like, for example, the bylaws update is likely to come in May.
Next meeting. Thank you so much for that. All right, now we are at our adjournment. The time is now 12:59, and this meeting is adjourned.